Now, we know the basic human needs to be food, shelter and clothing. But in Finland, as of the beginning of July, broadband has been classified as a basic human right, where every citizen is entitled to at least 1 megabyte per second, which the government is supposed to provide. Now, this is one dream that East African states are keen to one day realize.
The cost we have is extremely high because in Singapore, 100 megabyte is $20. 1 meg here is $400.
As the third fiber optic cable Easy switched on this week across East Africa, the long-time dream of connectivity to the international information superhighway comes closer for many across the region, and the governments have played a leading role.
Pricing is very key to greater utilization of broadband in Africa. And because it's a development cable, we are hoping that they'll be the first one to come with a better pricing model.
The winners have been mobile operators and internet service providers such as Access Kenya, which is the only ISP listed on the Nairobi Stock Exchange and is hooked on a huge 5,000 megabit fiber capacity on both the Teams and the Seacom cables.
Fiber was one of the two last missing links for Kenya. It was the bigger of the two, though. Why? Because the second missing link was actually the local infrastructure.
With 3 cables now operational across East Africa, more bandwidth and cheaper costs, mobile operators have jumped onto the bandwagon. And recently, Safaricom bought out 2 smaller ISPs in a move that is set to topple the status quo.
With the penetration of data being so low within Kenya, and also the technological developments that we've seen over the last 12-15 months, we have always known that data would become a bigger part of our business.
Enter You, Kenya's 4th entrant into the mobile phone sector, currently holding under 5% of market share, but theirs is a long-term plan.
I think we are looking at data as one of the main plank for generating revenue going forward, because with more competition coming in, voice will definitely become commodity, will become very, very cheap, and would not be one of the sustainable revenue plank.
Bharti Airtel, formerly known as Zain, is one operator that's been down the aisle one time too many, changing ownership as well as brands 4 times in just 10 years. The firm has just acquired a 3G license, while its biggest competitor, Safaricom, is already testing its 4G platform.
The entry of Bharti Airtel into Kenya, I suppose it's sort of one of those things that's weighted with trepidation. We clearly, have looked at how Bharti operate in India, and they're a very good operator, very good management team. They will change the landscape, no doubt. How that will change is still to be seen.
In recent months, broadband has become a bigger playing field, with many eyeing a piece of the pie. Here, Access Kenya has come under scrutiny by investors, with many saying that the company may need to up its game.
On the enterprise end, or where critical data solutions are being used, really there's not much competition there, because Access Kenya is a data expert. Access Kenya is a market leader, and in that part of the market we have about 40 to 45% of that part of the market, the corporate and enterprise level. On the lower end of the market, which is SME and residential, if you factor in the fact that most users at that end use a modem, you might have 2 million or 3, even 5 million users of modems. And on our side, we'll be competing on that. We're using WiMAX. And so our market share on that side will be very small, probably about 5 to 10% of the market. Whereas at that end, Safaricom will be a much bigger player, and on the top end, Safaricom will be a much smaller player, where we are a much bigger player.
Now, in 2008, a converged licensing regime lowered barriers to market entry, as well as allowed operators to offer any kind of service in a technology and service-neutral regulatory framework. So what has happened after this, and are ISPs such as Access Kenya worried about mobile operators such as Safaricom entering what has been its turf?
Do we watch carefully what they do? Yes, we do. Threatened? No, we're not. We have our strengths, and those core strengths are continually being built on.
With a strong focus on the corporate data market and a market share of 42%, Access Kenya is keen on sustaining its growth strategy of attaining 40% share of all new corporate customers.
We are at the top. We have continually fought to stay at the top since we got this position 7 years ago. To stay at the top, innovation matters. Yes, the size of your treasure chest in terms of your marketing blitz might make you, the perception might be that somebody else is at the top.
So what about Safaricom, who's used to being the market leader?
We're never happy at being number two in anything that we do. And we believe that with the growth in data, the potential for the growth in data, and the strategy that we're following on our data, then we'll undoubtedly become the number one data provider for the country.
And where voice is concerned, Safaricom dominates with 78% of market share, Zain takes 10%, Orange another 10%, while You takes home just 5%. Consumers are the winners as tariffs begin to fall, though analysts say this will not be the only benefit for consumers.
Now, the key business for the telecom industry is the voice. And the key metric they use to measure the performance of voice in that business is average revenue per user, or they call ARPU. So what you find, if you go into the largest telecom companies, you'll find that that number is in decline. So you read in the press, ARPU is declining, ARPU is declining. So where does the telecom industry go from here? Where the money is going to come from in the future, and which is the strategy you see Safaricom employing, is data and content.
As fiber optic intensifies competition in the ICT sector, countries across East Africa, specifically Rwanda and Kenya, intend to be the ICT hub of choice in sub-Saharan Africa. Consumers across this part of the continent hope that theirs will be a fast ride onto the international information superhighway.